in our hands. Here we stand. I'm a teacher, I'm black, and I'm a man.
In demand,
Hard,
in demand,
intelligent,
in demand,
integrity.
in demand.
In demand. Teach, mentor, volunteer.
Rhymes with Reason is an interactive, web-based vocabulary workbook or software that teaches students SAT, ACT, and Common Core designated vocabulary, all found within popular, recognizable hip-hop lyrics. There are so many kids out there that they know the lyrics to their favorite rap song, or they know all the lyrics to their favorite rapper by heart, and nobody has to tell them to go look up those lyrics or break down those lyrics. But everybody, teacher, parent has to, coerce them to memorize or go learn SAT words or go learn the key terms to their history homework or their history curriculum or their science curriculum. And this is just a fusion of those two things and a way to get kids interested and excited about learning stuff that they need to know.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the quarantine editions of the In Demand podcast. Right now we have a special guest, but we also have a special guest host as well. Our brother Rob Wallace couldn't make it today, so we got another brother from In Demand, Mr. Kente Rosser. I'll just have him introduce himself to you guys.
Yo, Nellos. First of all, thank you for this opportunity, man. I'm happy to be here in the co-pilot seat. Kente Rosser here, a lifelong educator, 16 plus years in the business. Administrator, it's the current hat I wear, been a teacher, been a athletic director, been an assistant principal, currently a principal. Happy to be here on the podcast. I'm familiar with our guest today, familiar with this work. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to jumping in, diving in. It's going to be a lot of fun today.
Indeed.
So, Wallace, man, you picked the wrong day to miss, brother, but I'm happy that you did, so I can sit in. I pray that all is well, man. I know you're good, man, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have our guest on as well.
Yeah. Now, indeed, man, like I said, our special guest today is Mr. Austin Martin, creator and founder of Rhymes with Reason. We just saw the video in the opening. Man, he's doing some great things with hip-hop, looking at the educational implications of how hip-hop can be used in the classroom. I met this young brother 3 years ago. He was I think he was maybe a junior at Brown, or sophomore at Brown.
Sophomore, man, that was like 5 years ago.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So we've been rocking for a while then. So he shared with me his vision. I've seen it grow. I've seen the accolades come his way. So we just want to welcome Mr. Austin Martin. Man, thanks for coming on. He's
Thank
on
you.
the West Coast, but hey, he has his roots in the D though, right?
Sure.
Parents from Detroit, so he's a D boy, but out on the West Coast right now with his pops, who's from Detroit, who man I really respect. So man, Austin, man, first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, thank you for having me. You talked a little bit about it, but Detroit roots, I guess, is maybe where my journey really starts at the root. But I grew up in San Diego, California. I have been an aficionado, a super fan of hip hop pretty much my whole life. And when I was young, when I was a preteen, spend all my extracurricular time just engaging with hip hop and hip hop culture, and not just engaging with it, but really diving in very deep. I've always gravitated toward lyricists. I've always thought, I think the thing that really pulled me in was the fact that it was, Black men and Black women and people of color using language in such a genius fashion. And I've always loved words. But just to see people that look like me, that I felt I identify with, that were like just like linguistic geniuses, is what really kind of pulled me in. And I didn't know that until later, that that's why I was pulled in. I think that's a big reason, but also just the feel and like just the, I don't know, man, just the freshness, like everything. I just love everything about hip hop. And it was one of the first things in my life that I got extremely into. So, I would study like Lupe lyrics and Jay-Z lyrics and things like that as like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old and things like that. And I want to understand every reference, when Jay is talking about whatever he's talking about, you know what I mean? Like all the streets, all the historical figures, people that he would allude to, and same for, like I said, Lupe and other people. I would want to know what those things meant. I'd be curious. They to me, their references, them co-signing something, made it cool to me and made it like worthy of knowing about. And as I got older as a listener and matured as a listener, what became cool, like I'm talking about, to know about, were words that they were using, were, like I said, things that they were alluding to historically, things that were actually kind of academic. And yeah, as I got older as a young man, I started to see that this time that I was investing listening to this music and being a student of it actually could translate over into academic success for me, because I didn't care about school until I was like 14 or 15. But I realized again that what made the people that I idolized the most great was their ability to use words. And I was like soaking up all this knowledge. And when I was in high school, I started to excel as a writer, communicator. Like I had a broader vocabulary, better grasp on figurative language, all these things. Mm-hmm. And, I also just matured as a young man. And I was lucky, like the stars just aligned for me at the right time. So this click was happening with seeing my culture, like somehow like morphing what I was stimulated by extracurricularly, and morphing that into like, okay, this connects to school. So that was happening, and I was maturing. And next thing I know, I went from like okay student to boom, like above 4.0 by the end of high school. And I just gained confidence. And by the end of high school, I was accepted to Brown. And once I got to Brown University, which is like an Ivy League school, I was like, wow, like I never thought I would be here. Do whatever I can to bring opportunity and bring a spark to kids that are just like me, that didn't get that spark, or like didn't have certain mentors and didn't have certain resources and things like that, especially educationally. So I came up with the idea for Rhymes with Reason.
Hold on. Let's start right there. I want to deal back in high school a little bit, man. Yeah. It's funny because, can you tell the audience how old you are, Austin?
Yeah, so I'm 24 years old now, okay. And myself and Quan, Mr. Nellum's linked up, I guess when I was 19. Yeah. So my second year of college. So I had this idea, when I was 18 as a freshman in college, but it really, like I said, it really was rooted in my experience like as a child. So
before we talk about Rhymes with Reason, I think it's just important that we kind of like dissect your high school experience, because what I wanted to point out is that Austin is 24. I'm 39. Kente, how old are you?
39.
39. And when you're talking about a thread that connects all of us is hip hop. And even the experience that you talked about being in high school, I think that's something that Kente and I both, experienced. We spent, during our heyday, in high school, you know, you had to be able to rhyme. If you wanted to be like in these ciphers, you had to use, you know, like you said, lyricism. You know, you had to have words and things like that. And so I believe myself that, you know, especially when it comes to writing, there's a rhythm to, you know, writing. I know Kente is was an English teacher before he became an administrator, right? And so there's a rhythm to writing. And once you get your rhythm, and I believe that hip hop actually helped me to be a better student, because I actually wrote with that same like hip hop rhythm that I would write around with. I would write an essay with as well, you know, and just the words, you know. I mean, I think that it's very interesting that like hip hop is this very wordy art form. In fact, it's probably the only musical stylings where you're literally forced to listen to each word and to think about those words and contemplate, wow, how did they use it? You know, and I really found out that was something. There was something that was back in the day. It was called Rap Genius. You ever heard that website?
Yeah, they still have that.
So they dropped the rap and they just say genius now. But what they found out was that people, again, only really one of the only art forms where people want to know, what did they actually mean, you know, when they said that. So they said, all right, we're going to analyze and annotate each lyric, you know. And I thought that was a wonderful idea, because you're able to go online and look at, you know, the annotations from people around the world about a lyric from, you know, from somebody that's from maybe the same hood that you grew up in, or a hood that's similar to yours, you know, and their words are being analyzed worldwide, you know. And those same skills of analyzing lyrics can be used to analyze passages from a book, speeches, everything. And so Rap Genius, they still analyze rap lyrics, but they've analyzed everything with the same type of skill that anybody would use to analyze rap lyrics. And so, so in that, I knew at that point that there's a educational use for hip hop, but there's also a genius behind hip hop as well. I don't know, Kente, I saw you shaking your head. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I mean, a few things jumped out at me from Austin's introduction, and one thing that kind of want to explore a little bit is, Austin, you're from Detroit. You currently live in LA, which is the West Coast. You went to school on the East Coast. You know, I'm just, how did hip hop across these different coasts have an impact on you? You know, being from the Midwest, going to school on the East Coast, and now currently living on the West Coast. Any commonalities between the genre? Any differences stood out to you? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So actually, I personally, my folks are from Detroit. Like, I didn't grow up in Detroit, so I just want to, make that clear. But man, I think what I would say to that question is, because I've had different experience, because I've had a diverse set of experiences, like you're saying, in moving about different spaces across the country and experiencing hip hop, to me, I'm very, very neutral in terms of, I pick out the common threads, and to me, the common thread that I've always, like I said, gravitated to was lyricism. And it didn't matter to me, even though I grew up on the West Coast and people, you know, were playing Snoop and whoever, you know, Dre and Snoop and Pac, you know, and then I would travel to Detroit, and then, you know, like college, be on the East Coast, whatever. The common thread for me that I always looked for and gravitated to as a fan and as somebody that loves the art form was lyrics. And so basically what I'm saying is, the artists and stuff that I gravitated to and that inspire me it never really mattered what region they came from. Like, I like people from off-center places. Like I talked about Lupe, was from Chicago, and you know, I like people from everywhere. This is random, but I've always been a big fan of Clips as well, who's from Virginia. And
Yeah.
like, it just never mattered to me, like, where somebody is from, really. And I think because I'm focusing in on the universal elements of hip hop, like lyricism, like storytelling. And I think rather than me being obsessed with like the West Coast sound or something like that, or locked into that, you know. So for me, it's like, yeah, Kendrick's from out this way. I like Kendrick. J. Cole from North Carolina. I like J. Cole. You know, it's never mattered to me about like where somebody's from. It's just, do they have these criteria that matter to me? And like being lyrical and using words in a creative way is what's always kind of mattered to me.
Gotcha.
All right, bro. Now let's pick up at your story when you were just talking about being at Brown.
Yeah. So at Brown, like I had this idea, you know, coming in, and I was like, okay, how in the world do I take an idea like this and make it real? Like, how do I do that? And the great thing, this is what I would tell any students that are listening, or any parents of students that are listening to this podcast. One of the greatest reasons to go to college for a young person is the college's resources and human capital. So basically, when I was at Brown, there was a department there, an entrepreneurship department, and also like a department for like serving the community as well. And I was able to get mentorship and grant money to support my idea. So the money is important, but what's just as important is people to tell you, okay, here's how you take an idea from point A to point B. Here's how you create a prototype. And if you go to a university, it's much easier to it is that's that type of mentorship, and those types of resources can be available to you. And when you're not in college, it can be difficult to access that type of information, and like I said, even grant money to literally jumpstart your idea. So one of the first things that they had me do was do research. So I looked up the top 100 words on the SAT and try to see how many of those I could find in like popular, recognizable hip hop lyrics. And I found 67 out of 100 words. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the first points. I was like, whoa, like I really have something here. Let me see what happens when I look at 1,000 words. And it just grew and grew and grew. And what I found was this kind of correlation that there's an infinite amount of vocabulary words and key terms that students are mandated to learn on standardized tests that are just sitting inside hip hop lyrics, sitting inside lyrics that students consume every day, like on their own, like without anybody telling them to do so. So did that research, and then got grant funding and just kept building from there, and built a team out of people when I was at Brown, even tech coders, all kind of different people, and just networked and rallied people around this idea, and just kept building and building, and got people to start pilot. Schools started using it. People started experimenting with it. I got feedback, like, here's where it's good, here's where it needs work. People started paying for it, and then all of a sudden I had a business.
You know, that's interesting. Can I jump in here for a second, Quar?
What?
That's interesting because, you know, here on the one hand, it's an interesting dichotomy we have unfolding here. Because on the one hand, you have the sophistication of an exam like the SAT. And on the other hand, you have a genre of music that not because we understand, and we understand and appreciate what hip hop does and how sophisticated it is. But I think a lot of people would have been surprised to know that you have these top 100 words that are used on the SAT, and such a large percentage of those words are found in hip hop lyrics. You know,
Yeah.
for you as the research, it was kind of like a aha moment, like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that would be a moment of validation, like this
Yeah.
genre that I love so much, and you know that I've always known was everything that we think it is,
Yeah.
and supported by here. You look at this SAT examination, all of these words are all throughout it. What was that like for you when you had that discovery?
Man, like you hit it on the head. It was a huge moment of validation. Again, it's like this thing that you're into and that, you know, society has said is, it just broke it just really broke the narrative that hip hop is, you know, like it just broke the stereotype. It just broke the doors open on the stereotype, you know, that hip hop is less than intellectually or whatever. It's like, no, literally by your standards,
Yeah.
it is legit, right? So you can't even dispute it. And I mean, we all know what hip hop means to us and we know what it means to our culture, but to know also that it has a similar type of value, again, by the systemic standards, like it can't really be argued with. This thing is too powerful and too big. It's going to break out of the box. Like it's going to infiltrate education. It's going to infiltrate. It already is infiltrating every other mainstream box that exists in our society. So it's this thing that's so powerful that it can't be held captive in a cage. So it was validating from that end. It was also validating for me to know, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, you know, this is, you know, when you find little nuggets of gold like that, you can't really turn the other way from it. You got to follow it and take it as far as you can take it. So for me, it was like, dang, this might be what you're supposed to do with your life.
Yeah. I got a question for you, man. When you talked about the top 100 words being found in hip hop lyrics, now I gotta ask, man, was it across all genres of hip hop, or was it just the so-called conscious rap? I mean, what did you find these vocabulary words in?
Yeah, definitely like mixed in terms of like kind of different buckets of hip hop, but for sure conscious, like, you know, for sure, like, you know, the Most Defs and Talibs and, like I said, Lupe and Kendrick. But again, there's folks like Kendrick and Drake that, you know, they're like, well, let me say Kendrick. Kendrick would probably be more, one could call him conscious, but he has like diamond singles or like, you know what I mean? He charts, like he might be the number 2 most popular hip hop artists in the world of our time, right? So, you know, there are guys that are conscious, that are you and Drake. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call Drake a conscious rapper, but lyrically, like, Drake is a problem. And Drake is nice to me, and the way he puts words together cannot be questioned. So he was definitely heavy on that list. And what beyond that initial 67, now that our library has like thousands of words, what we try to do is and it's not just SAT, but there's Common Core and other like curriculum standards that we're deriving content from and aligning content with. We definitely make it a point to focus on the artists that are relevant, that the kids are listening to. This program will not work if we're only doing Chuck D.
Yeah.
Like we gotta have like G Herbo and Lil Uzi and NBA Youngboy and Young Thug, and you know what I mean? Because it's for us, it's all about the kids. It's not about being some highbrow like thing. It's about connecting with these kids.
So are those names you mentioned that, like, you know, that the kids would know and would listen to, they're on the Rhymes with Reason website as well?
Definitely.
That's phenomenal to me, man, because what it's saying is that even, and this is what I don't call them that, but whether it's a conscious rapper or a ratchet rapper, they still have to use vocabulary, and that vocabulary can be used to instruct and to bring kids into deeper understanding of word usage and things like that. And so I thought that was phenomenal, because when I first saw it, it was like, man, they got the gamut of rappers. Like they got the the so-called conscious rappers, but they also got the popular pop rappers and stuff too. So all that is important. I agree to 100%. Like, it's important because what it shows is that hip hop, no matter who's using it, it's still a brilliance behind it. And I think that when our young people see that there's something brilliant behind something that they are immersed in on a daily basis, they see themselves as being brilliant as well, because they can, So I think I'm totally in agreement with that narrative change, not only for hip hop, but it's a narrative change for the majority of people who who embrace it and whose culture is represented in that hip hop too. So.
No doubt. Austin, I think I'm gonna use your research to win an argument that Quan and I have been debating for a few years. And I think I'm finally able to quantify my perspective through your research. So let's throw a name out there. I don't know, Jay-Z. And if we see that his work or his lyrics appear in your Rolodex or your index of words used on the SAT, and let's just compare him to, who would be second fiddle? Let's say Nas, right? Let's just throw Nas out there. And if we happen to see that Nas, his work or his words that comes up on your Rolodex or index a little bit less than Jay, I think that might help support my argument over the years. But I know that's not exact.
There's no argument.
How your website is to be utilized, but that's just one practical utilization that comes to mind during these times.
No, I feel you. I mean, it's interesting because basically what you're saying is that you use the word quantify, right? It's like, our platform has quantified academic value to some extent of the genre. Again, like, our purpose is not necessarily to to facilitate those types of arguments, but like it just is like, we're making academic value out of the genre in a strategic way. So yeah.
Well, this is I don't want to get too far off the story, man. So let's right now, you brought us to how you were at Brown. You were part of a program where you got mentorship. You got a grant to research. You start off researching and saw that, hey, there's a majority of SAT words that can be found in hip hop lyrics. So what happens next? You got this research, you got your team, and here's something else I wanted to say, Kente, is that the catalyst being hip hop. He was able to, first of all, do this research and get grant funding for it. To build a team, to get coders, you know what I'm saying? He's getting all this team together to enhance education by way of utilizing hip hop. But I'm sorry. So what happens next, Austin?
Yeah, for sure. So what happens next? After I graduated, people started paying for Rhymes with Reason. Schools started paying. Well, actually, before that, like I said, we got a bunch of user testers, a bunch of schools that were, utilizing it for free at one point and giving us feedback. And again, there's two end users of Rhymes with Reason. One, of course, is the student, but the other are teachers. So we had to get a lot of feedback from teachers on how they wanted this to serve them. Because for it to work with students, the teachers have to be on board, which is can be very challenging. So we piloted, got feedback, and built this platform that will work for teachers and students. We show grades and like progress monitoring and things like that. So then people started paying for it, and I realized like I could make a little bit of money doing this, and that this could sustain itself. So I decided to go into this like as full-time as I could. I had, part-time job and stuff like that outside once I graduated, but I was working on this as many hours as I could. And it started to take off 2017. A bunch of schools started to adopt it. We linked up with, I'm trying to think of like Hampton City Schools in Virginia. Their middle schools use it. All kind of different programs, like with you guys at Douglas formerly.
Yeah.
Schools out in Los Angeles, San Diego. As many schools and also like after school programs, summer programs as we could get it to, we're starting to pay for our product. And since then, we've just been continuously improving it, trying to get it out to more people, more schools, more programs. We linked up last year, 2019, fall 2019. We launched a collaboration with Chance the Rapper, his nonprofit organization, Chicago, where we distributed access in Chicago to 1,000 students. It was recognized by Forbes. I was recognized as one of Forbes 30 under 30 in education. But yeah, we just been trying to get this out to as many folks as possible, and just help as many students and teachers and people that could use this spark and also use a boost in their development of literacy skills as possible. I feel like in our community is crucial. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation in terms of the literacy to prison pipeline and things of that nature. So over time, as this has grown, our work has become more meaningful and we've narrowed in on how to acutely attack the issues that at hand that we want to change. So
yeah. And so, man, what I want to do, I want you to, if we can take your desktop and give us a quick demonstration of how to use Rhymes with Reason. And, we ask you a couple questions of its implications during this time as well. So, first of all, before you show us how to use it, for those who still maybe not understanding what it is, can you kind of tell us what it is? Quickly?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I guess we haven't really concretely explained what it is. So Rhymes with Reason it's a website, but it's an interactive website it's an online learning game or app, if you will, on our website, www.rhymeswithreason.com, where students can learn vocabulary words and build literacy skills while listening to their favorite music. And these words and skill building activities are directly inspired by the lyrics of the most popular artists of today. So I'll show, I will share my screen and kind of do a visual representation of how Rhymes with Reason works. Okay. Cool. So I'm just going to show a quick demo. Actually, I'll show a few things. But this is our primary feature. This is the primary part of the student experience, where students are able to create what we call a learning playlist. And basically, it's very much inspired by music streaming services. Again, our goal, one of our main objectives is to meet students where they are in terms of how they interact with music and technology and all these things outside of school. So this can feel genuinely like something that they do on their own without anybody telling them to do so. So they make a playlist. Let's say, you know, they like Cardi B and they need to learn that word, and they like J. Cole. So they make their playlist, press go. Here's the word, part of speech, definition. They can listen.
You ain't ballin', you just talking, that's that commentary. I was in the field, man, I slayed for this.
So they can listen to that audio over and over and over again until they memorize it. And you know how the brain works. Like you'll never forget that. So when you see commentary on a English exam, you might hear Cardi B in your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a context explanation, sample sentences, just giving other usages. We've worked with folks from Harvard Grad School of Education. Also, I didn't even say this, but I'm actually going to be studying there next year, running the business, but I'll be there next year.
Oh, man.
Getting a master's.
Wow.
Yeah, like we work with folks from there that have refined our methodology, and so that it doesn't just serve only vocabulary, but also it builds skills having to do with inference and other things. We have some really exciting additions coming for next school year that will bring in point of view, word choice, all kind of different exercises that across the spectrum of literacy development. So this one right here is like a in context multiple choice question that mirrors that of the SAT. So insignificant talk, analogy, commentary as to what, as dash is sprint, critique. And also you can listen to it again as you're going through. Context clue, okay, what word or phrase within the lyric has a similar meaning? So think about it, all right, talking, right? Boom. So you're figuring out even the hints and the clues that are leading you to understanding what that word means. That's just a little quick. Oh, and then J. Cole, same thing, same model. Real quickly, I'll just very quickly show something else. So there's different, you know, we have levels going from easiest to hardest, really like fourth grade. Yeah, fourth grade level in terms of difficulty up to 12. And then, you know, and as you can see, like if I click on fundamentals, it'll show you some of the you know, easier words, right? But then all the way up to college prep. Which would be the most difficult, you know, with much more challenging words. Actually, this one is not that challenging. It's actually kind of, you know, enigma, opulence, alchemy, right?
Hold on. Go. I think I saw, did I see Lil Wayne up there?
Oh, yeah.
And what was
So
the word
these two.
he used?
Enigma.
Enigma.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big Sean, alchemy.
What was the Blueprint 3 word?
Future, with facet. What's up?
What was the word from Blueprint 3 that I saw?
Charisma.
Okay. No. Okay. All right.
Opulence. You looking at opulence, Kente?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, to Watch the Throne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opulence. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go through these units and it gets more difficult. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff coming for next year. All the passages too are leveled. Like all the lyrics are also leveled in terms of readability and all kind of stuff like that. But
so every word is connected to a song, and they can hear that particular lyric in which they use the word. The user can.
Correct. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And how many words do you guys have up so far?
Right now, I think there's like 1,600. Yeah, but we're growing and expanding, and there's like a 1,600 lessons, but the thing is, we're actually we're adding more, but we're really focusing on going deeper in terms of our methodology. Like I said, for this upcoming school year, all of the lyrics will actually have a reading level attached to the lyric, not just the word, but also the lyric. So there's different ways that we're personalizing the experience to the furthest extent we can to a student with their reading level and their proficiency level. Yeah. So not just the words, but the lyric also is leveled. Yeah. And then, there's other things that we have. We even have history, which I think Mr. Nellum's used.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really cool. I don't know, I'll click on the Roaring 20s. So, Jay-Z talking about the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah.
I
mean, didn't he do Jay-Z did he do a song or did he do the soundtrack for the, what was the movie?
American Gangster?
Nah, this is a movie with, about the Roaring 20s.
So he did some songs for the Great Gatsby.
Great Gatsby, yeah, there it is. Yeah. About the 20s, yeah. I thought that we was gonna see that. I thought we was gonna have a lyric from that song, but cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
About Prohibition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's it. The Gatsby. Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Rick Ross talking about W.B. Du Bois. Like,
hey man. Wow. And man, and I just love the fact that, because listening to lyrics, that the stuff is out here all, but the fact that you're able to kind of bring that all in and have it under one shelter that people can go to and just glean from it, man. And I can say, man, as somebody who used the program with my students, the Detroit connection is that I met Austin's father. And and uncle, actually. I might have met your uncle first.
Yeah.
And I was running Lyricist Society at Frederick Douglass at the time, and they heard about it, like, man, we want you to meet Austin. And so Austin, I don't know, you come to Detroit often, Austin?
I haven't been in about a year, but yeah, every summer I'm there.
So although you wasn't born in Detroit, he's been here enough to earn a pair of Cardis, I think.
Okay.
I think he get a pair of yays, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Man.
Hey, and also that's one of the highest honors that one.
I know, man.
Oh yeah. But
I'm knighted. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? That's a rite of passage.
Yeah, there you go.
But man, when I met him, I think we actually talked in the parking lot of Douglas, and then we ended up having a larger meeting, and we was talking about it, and I used the program, and I've just been amazed ever since, man. I've written about it. Anytime I've interviewed, I talk about it. Kente with the documentary think tank, I talked about it. But and it's all because of the experience of the students, man. I've ran all kind of vocabulary programs in school. I've been teaching in Detroit for 17 years now, and this is by far the only program where the students would beg, like, Mr. Nullums, let's do another one. Like they would want to do it in school, in class, and they would go home and be on their phones listening to it. They would come back telling me about lyrics and stuff. Did you know such and such? Like, I think when you put Chance on there, and so many kids came back as Chance, they not hearing about Chance the Rapper, coming back as Chance the Rapper fans, because of what they saw on the website, and so it would. But not just student interest, but also I think interest drive achievement as well. Students achieve, man. The data that I collected, we're seeing kids with the post test is knocking it out of the box, man. They with the vocabulary words, they withheld. I mean, they held on to the meaning of the words. They understood it. I mean, what I like is that the inference, looking at context, looking at metaphors and similes and stuff like that. All these higher level thinking skills was included with the program, and the kids just loved it, man. And so, anytime I talk about, something that's useful, Rhymes with Reasons always is at the top of the list for me. I mean, I like it because of a number of reasons, man, because it's culturally, there's a lot of talk about cultural relevancy, but I think just the fact that we're able to use something that's been created by our culture, that's the first thing. And then the person, Austin, being a 24-year-old black man, starting this, really the journey begins in high school, but using his interest for something, and I can see things like this being done for all kind of interests that our students have. But, hip hop is like, just looking at, the people on this video conference, man, I mean, we're separated by a number of years from Austin, but that thread is still the same. That thing that connected. You talk about generation gap. That generation gap is closed because of our similar interest in lyrics and stuff like that. So,
not that, when he referenced that appealing to all generations, NBA YoungBoy has content platform. Turbo has on this platform. Those are names that my students, really gravitate towards. So to know that even those types of music, which may not be first or second on our playlist, but will certainly be first or second on our students' playlist, they can be in this academic set, this mindset as well. And I think the other platform you just showed us with the historical lens, where these songs reference these historical events, and they can click down and get a little more context on what that historical timeline was like. That's powerful. Even for us as listeners, it's not uncommon for me to listen to a song and be intrigued by a lyric and want to find another way to explore that lyric a little deeper. That's intriguing to me as the educator. I think there's two lessons that are going on there, one for the kids and perhaps one for the staff member.
Yeah. Man. No, man, I appreciate you saying that. And I totally agree, man. I think, like you said, the being creating this bridge between the staff member and a teacher and the student, that's really the goal. Or because again, like a teacher this generation, they might listen to maybe like y'all probably like gravitate more toward the Nas's, right? And it's dope, like this platform, the fact that a kid could be like, hey, we got Young Thug here. And both the teacher and student are kind of like the playing field becomes equal between them, where they both get the opportunity to learn from each other. Like you pull up the Nas example, and then they're like, oh, let me show you that I'm learning this word from Young Thug. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like this merge or an exchange that's kind of, more equal. And I mean, they talk about that in all the like, what's it called? I should really know this, but a lot of the pedagogical education literature talks about, like even like this exchange, an exchange between student and teacher, rather than just the teacher just dumping into the student.
That's right. That's right. And then, what I do like too, man, is the fact you give the students a chance to express themselves as well. Is that still a part of it, where the students can write a lyric?
Yeah. I skipped over that. Yeah, students can write their own rhymes and record their own rhymes on the platform as well, and use it as mnemonic devices to remember the meaning of the words, and like you said, also just to express himself, as well. And yeah, man, I'm really, like, our team has been working so hard for this upcoming school year and this summer, but we have so many, it's going to be so much better too. Like we have we're building out a gamification system so that with different proficiency levels and different streaks and getting questions correct in a row, it gives you certain tokens that accumulate on your profile, and you can turn in the tokens we're working on with some potential partners about what the tokens can turn into to drive incentives for students to participate and excel, and making it more than even just this product, but making it an entire experience that motivate students to really care about learning.
And you know, we are during the time right now of the COVID-19 pandemic, and schools are closed, and you know, we're unsure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
In the fall, we know that the summer is going to be filled with, you know, uncertainty, but you know, I know a lot of school districts are trying to do enrichment online even during the summer, and maybe continuing during the fall, man. So what are the implications for you know, the use of Rhymes with Reason at home amidst this COVID-19 pandemic?
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, it's a crazy situation happening. I do think that Rhymes with Reason is uniquely positioned, though, to be a very viable resource during this time. It's all online. There's no teachers required. That account that I just opened up, where I went through the modules from the easiest to the most difficult, a student can do that themselves entirely. They don't need anybody else they don't need anything other than a laptop, a Chromebook, a tablet, or a phone, and they can go through it and learn and grow. And you know, particularly with Detroit, I really would like to get this thing out there to as many young people and parents and as possible in the city of Detroit at this time. And I know Detroit's making some efforts, like they donate. There's 50,000 laptops or Chromebooks that are being provided to students in Detroit, and free Wi-Fi. And I just can't stress enough the terrible thing about I mean, there's a lot of terrible things about COVID-19, but one of the most terrible things about it is really how it is affecting our communities, and how it's like how the effects of it are really how dire the effects of it are contingent upon class stratification and economics and race. And you know, basically what I'm saying is a lot of, compared to suburban white students, students in Detroit, them not being in school physically can be more damaging if the right measures aren't taken to equip them with resources than suburban white students, period. This situation is going to hit us harder than students that already have a leg up. So basically what I'm saying is I would love, and my plan is that Rhymes with Reason is a resource that can make it so that can give us an advantage at this time, because we are generally disadvantaged by this situation.
Yeah. So how can a parent, a teacher, how can let's say that we have a forward-thinking teacher who wants to buy a subscription for their class. How might they go about that?
Yeah, so go to www.rhymeswithreason.com. You scroll to the bottom of our website. There's a couple different options for how you can buy a classroom package. Put in your information and we get your information. You can instantly purchase one, or you can send us your information. We'll make up a quote for you. And then for a parent, if you go on our website, there's a tab at the bottom that says our COVID-19 home study package. So there's that package where you can just get it just for one student. And then also we're giving away, because like you guys are having me on this podcast, giving away 10 free accounts for parents or just individual students. So if they go to www.rhymeswithreason.com/socialworks, that was the portal through which we did our collaboration with Chance the Rapper's organization. through that link, I'll give away 10 free logins
All right, so
for students. And there's a code, and I'll put this out there and make sure that you all have it. But the code is all caps social rhymes to access it for free for those 10 students.
okay. All right, so if they go in, they can go to social work and they put in the password you just gave. They'll be able to access it for free.
Correct.
So if you're listening, go ahead.
10 slots.
It's 10 slots. So it's only 10 slots. So you got to go quick, right? So
Yes.
if you're listening to this podcast, you know, the information is out here. It should be underneath us right now. If you're listening to this podcast and you think that this is something that you would like to utilize at home, you know, and you want to get on it right now, you know, there's 10 free slots right now available just for the listeners of the In Demand podcast. So, you know, thank you very much for that.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah, thank you. That's a generous offer, man. We thank you for that.
yeah, that's a great offering.
Pleasure.
So, yeah, man. I appreciate you being on this podcast, man. I guess I gotta hit you with one last question.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
man. I think you knew it was coming. So,
Huh.
top 5, man.
Oh man. Okay, so here's the thing, man. Personal top 5 or like who I actually think is the top 5?
Let's do the personal top 5.
Okay, in no order.
All right.
Kind of.
Okay.
Jay,
Okay.
Nas, Lupe,
Mm-hmm.
this one you guys are gonna roll your eyes at. Drake.
Mm-hmm.
5. Who's my other 5th? I'm trying to think of just real, like actual, like rappers. Man, he's more of. It's hard to really call him a rapper, but I'm gonna say Kanye.
Kanye. Okay.
And okay, that's again very personal top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Jay and Nas are objectively in any top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Lupe is somebody that means a lot to me, and I think that he had his career gone differently, he'd probably be a top 20 guy. And just based off of talent and ability and stuff like that. And then Drake and Ye, to me, just in terms of hip hop artists, might be, let's fast forward like 20 years from now. And I'm trying to look at it from that lens. Like 20 years from now, when we look back, who the most influential guys that creatively pushed the genre to ridiculous heights? And I would say that Drake and Kanye.
All right. Now, who is top 5 when it comes to vocabulary?
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Lupe.
Okay.
Mos Def.
Mm-hmm.
Nas. Black Thought. Eminem.
All right.
There's other folks for sure, that I'm missing.
I think that's a pretty good core group. I think you named some names that once I talk to Quan again, I'll be able to validate a lot of my. You're a sophisticated guy. I heard the Ivy League in your background. Your bio is very sophisticated. And a couple of your top 5 lists, I think I think my list more aligns with yours than say a Quan's list.
Okay.
No, indeed.
Oh man, I really want to put as my 6th man, and honestly, like it's hard to not have him in my 5 would be Andre 3000.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
See, the only thing I think that keeps Andre off is that he doesn't have. I guess he doesn't have a solo album. I don't know.
Yeah.
What was the speaker? Was it Love Below?
Love Below.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that would be considered but yeah, he doesn't have a solo album, so I think that's what kind of keeps him off the list a lot. But he's definitely. I mean, as far as
Black Thought doesn't have a solo album. He's on the list.
yeah.
I like Black Thought. I think he's definitely a quality member on that list.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I'm going to say this real quick. In the last couple years, my answer has changed. I've always been a fan, but really actually started to appreciate Drake a lot because in this new world that we live in, again, where all this stuff is driven by social media and technology, all these things, his lyrics are the most captioned and tweeted lyrics out of anybody ever. And to me, what that suggests is that he's able to capture the sentiments of a generation so concisely and so well that all these people, they're feeling what he's saying and they're feeling his bars so much that they're using it to like define their feelings and their thoughts. And he's so good at being at the pulse of like, you know, having these isms and having these kind of quotables, period, that a whole generation of people identifies with. And that is something that I can't say any other rapper can do. Like even the Jays and the Nas, like they got their quotables, but Drake will have some white girl in a sorority who could have his lyric, and then have somebody from Detroit banging with his lyrics too. Like how much he could, and I'm just thinking as a writer, how ill you have to be to reflect and relate to that, how universal your talent is insane.
And I just think that speaks to the universality of hip hop, man. I think that what you're doing and with your platform is giving a new look. Because oftentimes, you know, with hip hop, a lot of the negative portrayals, especially of black men, are pushed out for the world to see, and it travels. You know what I'm saying? So that's the bad part of it being universal. But for you to be able to show that different side of it, that, you know, again, as a young black man who utilized hip hop in a positive way, and then showing like the brilliance, not necessarily behind the art form, but the brilliance behind the people who bring the art form to life. I mean, I think that says a lot. I mean, to be able to put G Herbo or whoever, you know what I'm saying, on SAT, like, yo, your words are being utilized to teach kids SAT words, you know, that I think that would do something even for the for the artist to know, like, man, really? Like, you know, I never thought about that, you know. So I mean, I see that, you know, this is a much needed thing to not only change how we view how education could be approached, but also, man, just to change the narrative of culture. And
no doubt,
you know, and I think, you know, definitely applaud you and your team for getting that done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So hey, Kente, man, you got any closing remarks, my brother?
Nah, man. My pleasure to meet you, man. I've heard about your work. Quan referenced it in the documentary a few years back. I know he speaks very highly of you, and just to be in your presence, man, you're brilliant. You know, and what you've created, man, is going to be transformative for anyone who's blessed to be able to use it and interact with your platform, man. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, and with that, Austin, thank you, brother, from Detroit.
Right. Appreciate you.
To the West Coast, and
sure.
See y'all next time.
All right.
Peace.